So I want to make a big disclaimer going into this. I don't have a proper microphone, and my conventional way of recording audio was putting a blanket over myself, and I was fucking sweating. So you're gonna have to deal with possible noise in the background. Also, this video was supposed to come out ages ago, and because of this issue and some other issues, it didn't because the files got corrupted. So I don't want the audio factoring in that again. So you're just gonna have to deal with this. I'm sorry. Anyway, enjoy the video. With the release of Mega Man Dual Overdrive within a year, which, god, that's so weird to say even though I'm excited, I think this video on the most overlooked subject of the series couldn't have come out at a better time. That being, Mega Man is a weird franchise where the influence it brought to the platformer genre is always mentioned, but what exactly inspired the series just never is. Likely because it's not much game influence when it comes to its core concepts. Being a series from the late 80s, it mainly took from robot anime from the 70s or older, including mecha. But live-action media like tokusatsu and even some Western movies were also a big influence on it. There is a lot to talk about with this series in terms of its inspirations, none of which have really been documented in video form, to my knowledge, because people only think Mega Man took from Astro Boy and maybe sometimes bring up Cashern, even if that's not how that works. That factor is mainly due to the fact that a lot of Western fans don't really look into old anime, or a lot of Mega Man fans might actually not like anime, even though the Mecha to Mega Man pipeline is real. It happens less than you think, but I'm not here to talk about any of that. No, what I'm here to talk about is the one series that, to me, gets criminally overlooked in the conversation about what Mega Man was inspired by. That is Android Kikaider. For some context before I go into this, because I know most people do not know what the fuck this series is, Android Kikaider was created by Shotaro Ishinomori in 1972. The author is known mainly for bringing about the tokusatsu genre, as he created Kamen Rider and Super Sentai. Most of you may know the latter as Power Rangers, as that's what it was Americanized into. Ishinomori made a lot of other tokusatsus, with Kikaider being one of them. It's gotten a decent amount of content over the years, mainly in the form of live action, but it was lucky enough to get 3 animes somehow. The series tackles themes of what it means to be human through the lens of our protagonist Jiro, a robot trying to find his humanity. With a huge theme they also throw in your face is that this fucker is Pinocchio if he was really existential. The series gets really dark, but it's no wonder with the core concept alone it would go on to inspire Mega Man. If you can't already tell, Kikaider is a series I deeply love, and that's another reason I'm making this video. It not only deserves more recognition as something to inspire Mega Man, but it's also one of Ishinomori's most overlooked toku series. Even if more people probably have heard of it compared to something like Inazuma Man, which crossed over with Kikaider. I mean, it was on Adult Swim at one point. Not that many people bring that up. Though, one last thing I'll say before going into my comparisons, I will mainly be taking from the manga, even though obviously both the toku and anime were adapted off of it. I have admittedly not watched the toku for the fact of, I don't like how Jiro looks, please don't fucking kill me, toku fans. And while the toku is definitely the most noteworthy version that the creators of Mega Man definitely saw at the time while making it, I think the manga being the technical source material makes this fair game. If you see me mostly using the anime as B-roll footage though, that's just out of bias, as it did come out in the 2000s, it still has a lot of key moments from the manga I'll be talking about, so it's also fair game to use for footage. Oh, and spoilers beware, okay? Let's get into it. The first big comparison I'm going to go into is how Jiro clearly inspired both Rock and X a bit. I'm solely convinced the whole thing of Rock having a civilian form, but then turning into his robot form is likely based on the aspect of Jiro, as he switches between a human and robot form throughout the story. Though the big difference here is that Jiro's robot form is, well, fully robotic, while Rock is just in armor. That's probably leaning more into the Cashern and Time Boken inspiration there. Also, 2 very minor things I want to note is 1, knowing that Mega Man was going to be originally still aligned with it being based on Kikaider, and 2, Jiro and Rock have the exact same hair, and I can't tell if that's intentional or not because anime hair, but I find it very cute regardless. As for X, a huge plot point with Jiro is his sentience in the form of his Gemini, which is a program based on Jiminy Cricket. Yes, you fucking heard right, this Pinocchio shit is that serious. But his Gemini helps him differentiate from right and wrong and allows him to not have to follow any orders. This is very similar to the fact X was created as the first sentient robot in the Mega Man series to do the same, except he was sealed away for 100 years so his testing could be perfected. Unlike Jiro, where his Gemini is not actually perfected, but it helps him be sentient either way. I would say also, Jiro's generally softer and empathetic personality may have served as inspiration for X's to follow, as while X is more short-tempered, he ultimately hates fighting other Reploids, something that becomes apparent with Jiro's character as well, though other robots are deemed his brother, so the stakes are more personal for him, kind of like Rock's whole ordeal. Also, if we want to stretch it a little bit, to ZX Advent at least, Jiro has amnesia, and he just kind of gives me overall Grey vibes. I might be going crazy, though. That's my one, ZX thing I'm gonna put in here. I love ZX. Though, speaking of bosses, that ties into yet another similarity from the X series. Animal robots. The ones in Kikaider are more akin to the Robot Masters though, as they aren't being controlled by a virus, or I guess a bald man, but rather a human has reprogrammed them to do terrible things, but it's clear that this is where X got the animal boss inspiration from. I think the one thing that makes me sad that MegaMan X didn't do, compared to Kikaider, is that some of these animal robots actually have human forms, and I think that's a really cool way to add a layer to how these robots are being mistreated by humans. And that would have been really cool to see in Mega Man X because of the Reploid lore, but they never did that. I guess we had 03 to do it though, but it was kind of brief. Moving on to the next comparison though, it's time to talk about the fact that Dr. Light and Wily are clearly inspired by Professor Komyoji and Gill. I know some people mainly just think they're based on the doctors from Astro Boy, and that still has its merits. I think the backstory of these in Kikaider are just way more similar to the doctors from Mega Man. Komyoji, after the loss of his wife and son, is approached by Gill to help fund his robot designs, only for this motherfucker to be a prick and steal his designs for his own gain. And Komyoji works to create Jiro in order to fight against the robots. Sounds almost oddly similar to how Wily has a track record for stealing Light's robots and how Rock has to step in and fight them, doesn't it? Some of the differences here, though, is that unlike Light, who is supportive and always there for Mega Man, Komyoji is actually absent for most of the story, and it's an ongoing mystery to find him. The main supporting characters in Kikaider's story instead is the children of Komyoji, and it really makes me wish in the robot timeline we did actually get to see Light have children. Sure, it's nice in Battle Network that we get to see Light had relatives at all, but what Komyoji's children add to the narrative is one of the things that makes Kikaider all the more compelling to me. Even if the anime is what really fleshed out the family more. But as for Wily and Gill, yeah, no, almost the same person. Evil guys who want to rule the fucking world with robots, except Wily is way more mad scientist about it. That's not to say Gill can't be goofy, it's just mainly in the manga, and probably the toku, as there's a part where he pretends to be a random scientist to try to tamper with Jiro's Gemini, only for that to backfire on him, and when he gets attacked and Jiro runs away, he starts dropping about the 3 laws of robotics. I swear to God, this would happen to Wily, but also the more I see of Kikaider, the more I think Mega Man 7 bad localization ending wasn't that off from what it was taking from. Also, we all know that, like, Wily is based off of Albert Einstein, but, like, the fact Gill is German, is that the real reason why they made Wily German? I don't fucking know, but it's a really funny coincidence. But okay, maybe you're not convinced. Maybe you think I'm insane. Well, this next part, you're gonna think either. It's finally time to talk about Proto Man and Saburo. Now, there's one big thing I need to clarify going into this. I actually got the chance to ask, and I'm sorry if I butcher his name, Akira Katamura, the director of Mega Man 1 and 2 on Twitter, about something regarding Proto Man and Saburo. If you noticed how I had this quote floating around in the beginning of the video, that was something he said. He is the best person to ask about Mega Man inspiration, and he gladly answers questions from English fans. My main is locked, but I'm censoring out the app to show the full contents of this conversation. I also machine translated his tweets just to give a better idea. But if no one wants to pause and read, here's the summary. Katamura left production around Mega Man 3, but he did develop the concept for both Proto Man and Rush. The one thing you need to know that was taken from Saburo is Proto Man's iconic whistle. I would just end the comparisons there, as what Katamura is saying is that basically Saburo is an influence on Proto Man, but not the only one, as there's multiple other things, like with this whole series. But there are still so many fucking similarities between the two that I have to point this out anyway, cause what the fuck? But I want to quickly thank Kaitamaru for just not only having the interview where he confirmed Kikaider was an inspiration of MegaMan, but also just answering my question, because I was having a fucking Dexter moment thinking I was crazy for thinking Kikaider inspired MegaMan, but like, you gave me all the proof I needed, so thank you, GOAT. So on to the similarities. Blue's and Saburo's roles in the narratives are pretty identical. They are the brother of the main character made by their creator, but then was taken by the villain and reprogrammed. Only key difference here is that Blues eventually gets a redemption arc and goes solo, and Blues is also the older brother to Rock. Well, Saburo, believe it or not, is the younger brother. His name means third son, Jiro's name means second son. It's a whole funny naming thing. If we also look at traits of their physical appearances, both of them wear sunglasses, both of them have a yellow scarf, and Proto Man's original haircut before they changed it kinda looked like Saburo's. Also, I might butcher his name too, but Aguirre quoted Kaitamaru's tweet in response to me, and also pointed out that he took Saburo's coat and used it for Blue's design in Megamix. That's pretty fucking sick too. But I think my favorite part of this all has to do with Saburo's robot form named Hakaider. Hakaider inspired Darkman. Both of them have a similar build. The fact there are 4 Darkman later is based on the fact that there are 4 Hakaiders later. Don't worry about it. So, if you ever wonder why they pulled a Proto Man is evil again plot right after he was kind of redeemed in 4, it was possibly the devs acknowledging, while not the only inspiration, Saburo being one of them for Proto Man made it fun to play around with a robot clearly based off Hakaider. At least that's what I think. Also, if you see that Hakaider has a literal human brain, don't worry about it! So, this is where I would end the video. But there's one more thing I have to talk about that relates to Hakaider. This is something that just went over my head, because I was too focused on the classic and X inspirations for Mega Man that I never stopped to think about some of the other series. More specifically, the fact that Mega Man 01 is basically Mechanical Violator Hakaider. So for some context on this, Mechanical Violator Hakaider was a movie that came out in the 90s. It is a very bizarre adaptation of the original manga in Toku, where this time, Hakaider is fully the hero. It should be noted in the tokusatsu, apparently, like, Hakaider redeems himself at the end, but again, I haven't seen it, I was just gonna mention that. He's more of an anti-hero as he still murders people, but his intentions are otherwise on the side of good. He helps a resistance that is fighting against a very corrupted government. Noticeably, in this version too, he has amnesia, even if that's a reference to how Jiro originally does. His personality is very stoic and serious, as he doesn't even have a lot of lines in the movie. Speaking of Jiro, though, he is evil in this version, and his name is Michael. There's a lot of religious symbolism in this movie, hence his name. Michael resembles an angel of sorts as he's a savior, even though he still murders the people below him, and he's kind of the leader of the corrupted government along with his human master. Also, at the end of the movie, he becomes a strange monster. Where have I heard all of this before? Mega Man 01. Huh. Even with the knowledge of the fact Copy X was originally going to be the original X before they made Cyber Elf X, the parallels either way would apply because it's still an evil X, based on a version of evil Jiro. And even if Zero originally had amnesia given what X4 revealed, his stoic personality suddenly makes more sense knowing he was based on movie Hakaider. It's not everyone's favorite thing, but it kind of makes sense why they went this approach with this character. Also, on a final note, Tora Nakayama, the art director for Mega Man Zero, has said Kikaider is his favorite design ever. If that doesn't prove to you anything, and honestly could explain why Toro was instantly on board to work on this series, I don't know what does. It's just kind of funny how things work out, doesn't it? So yeah, that's every Kikaider and Mega Man comparison I could think of. We covered just barely 3 of the platform series, and maybe there was something else in ZX I could have missed, but otherwise we're done here. I think we should wrap things up. The script of this video hasn't been massively reworked, but the process of this video has been a fucking nightmare. I'm sorry if I got too excited or if my mic quality was too inconsistent or if I just slurred on my words way too much, but I just wanted to get this out. I know I could take my time, but as I recorded this was just one of the few times I could be alone, so yeah. I just really love Android Kikaider, if you couldn't tell already. Even if some people have already showed their love to this series in video form, I wanted to do something that connects it back to Mega Man. It really makes me sad this series is just not that known in the circles. I think it just has to do with the fact that Mega Man is what led me to find mecha anime, and without mecha anime, I wouldn't have found Tokusatsu, and without Tokusatsu, I wouldn't have found Kikaider. It just all kind of comes together, and I feel like there's such a blend between these three, but sometimes the fans don't always overlap. On a proper closing note, if you were to ask me what Kikaider media to start with whatever you feel like. Most people are either going to watch the original Tokusatsu, or funnily enough, start with Mechanical Violator Hakaider, despite it being nothing like anything else. The manga has its problems. It's not bad, it's just dated. The anime is a very much improved version of the manga, and it's an anime I recommend to people as a whole, but it has its issues too. Mainly with the sequel, because you really do have to read the manga to appreciate the Kikaider sequels, but the good news is the first anime is at least very self-contained. It's just a whole thing I kinda hate about old anime, where the manga and anime are two separate things completely, but they still expect you to read the manga to understand what the anime is referencing. Don't get out of here, Robo! This isn't about you right now! I personally think it's too much to expect people to want to read both a manga and watch an anime when they're probably just going to do one or the other. So yeah, that's why I'm just not pushing it this way. Just consume Kikaider however you want, and even if you never watch the anime, that's okay. I'm not one to gatekeep. It doesn't matter which version of Kikaider you like the most. If I can just make more Kikaider fans who also are Mega Man fans, I did my job well. That's all I'm here to do.